Welcome to Book Time with Ryan. I am Ryan, and today I'm going to tell you about some of the books that I've been reading, some more of my interest in sharks, and then I'm going to provide some of my thoughts on a graphic novel, and I haven't done that before. I read a lot of graphic novels, I read a lot of comics, but I haven't really reviewed them because I think it probably appeals to a niche group, but this one's pretty cool. So, and I think this crosses a lot of different groups. So, what have I been reading? And these are in no specific order, but I've been on a kind of a horror kick recently. Didn't really start with Max Brooks's Devolution, but I really enjoyed this. My wife and I make fun of Bigfoot stuff, and this really hit on a number of areas that we've watched shows about. So I really like this. I also know Max Brooks's father is Mel Brooks, which is very cool. I learned that later, but I really enjoyed that. I read John Langan's Children of the Fang. This is a collection of short stories. I have not read short stories in probably 20 years. I can't remember the last time I read short stories. So it took me a day or two to get used to the short story approach because I'm used to, if you have 300, 400 pages, it's building over those 300, 400 pages. But short stories, you got 5, 10, 15, 20 pages and then it's over. You keep waiting for more stuff to happen, and all of a sudden you realize it's over. But I really enjoyed it. That led me to John Horner Jacobs' Southern Gods. I got this because I bought another book of his, Murder Ballads, and that's a collection of short stories. What I didn't realize when I bought that was there's one of the short stories in that really kind of refers back to Southern Gods or is related to Southern Gods. So before I read that book, I wanted to get this and I wanted to read this. I really enjoyed it. It was pretty dark and a little violent, and there was some violence towards children, or child at least, that I was not prepared for. And I've told you, violence towards children affects me more now as a parent. I was not prepared for that. That was darker than I was expecting. Creepy. I think it's horror. I think it also turns me off to the really extreme stuff that I was considering buying, because I didn't really know what that would look like. This was not too much, and I'm going to read his other stuff, and I think he does a good job. It's just I was not prepared for it, but I liked it. It was just pretty extreme. This was one of the books that I've purchased because of BookTube. This was recommended by Carly Thorne at Uncarly, and it is So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I loved it. I think if you ever want to talk about problematic authors or what we should do to them, or if you like to jump on people's cases about stuff on Twitter, read this. And just consider what is said in this before you jump on the bandwagon of going after people. Because I've had it happen. I was on Twitter and I said something about, I read to read. A lot of the books on my bookshelf are by authors that I don't necessarily agree with. A lot of them are about issues I don't agree with. They're from points of view that I don't agree with. But I think I would really limit myself if I limited authors to people I agreed with either personally, or I agreed with their content, or I agree with their characters. So I just don't do that. Somebody kind of attacked me after I said that it looked like I didn't care about people who I would want to have follow me on Twitter or would want to subscribe to my channel. I want to be very clear. I don't care if you are angry with what I read. That's not why I do this. I don't read to make people happy. I don't talk about what I read because I want to align with something. I'm reading what I want to read. That's what I'm going to do. If there are things that I read that people don't want to hear about, don't watch, don't subscribe, whatever it is. I'm not making money off this. I don't plan to make money off this. I plan to read for me. So what am I reading now? I'm reading Close to Shore. Close to Shore is the real story of the shark attacks in 1916 in New Jersey. This is kind of the inspiration for Jaws, although I think it probably involved a great white shark and a bull shark. 32 pages into it. I like it already. It's a time period that I don't really read a lot about. This is like turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s. All right, sharks. This is going to kind of be the transition. I really have gotten into sharks, obviously. I've been reading all the Jaws books, and now I'm reading the book that inspired Jaws. but I also decided I was going to read some comics. So I got Hookjaw. Hookjaw, it was not good. Also, it's like 1970s comics, so it's not accurate. It's fairly bloody, like it's old school illustrations. This was done out of the UK in the 70s, really to take advantage of the hysteria around sharks that was generated by Jaws. And so I got Hookjaw, that's from the 70s. Then a new Hookjaw came out by Cy Spurrier, I believe, in 2017. And that's this Hookjaw. Now this Hookjaw I liked more. The illustrations are great. Let me see if I can find, I mean, like, look, there's Hookjaw. So he's got a harpoon through his jaw. That's why he's Hookjaw. But he just kills a lot of people. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of people being eaten, and that's really what it's all about. Lots of blood, lots of guts, Hookjaw. And then, even more extreme than Hookjaw, and is a complete joke, is Grizzly Shark. It is a shark that's on land. Look how bloody that is. And it eats people. I don't even know if I can really show you. Maybe really quickly. Look how, oh, bloody. But it's a shark that's eating people in the forest. What will I be reading? With all the books I've bought recently, I'm on a kind of a ban. It's a loose ban, but I just feel comfortable with the way the books are now. The bookshelves are in kind of a nice equilibrium. I have a lot of books I can read now. But I do have 4 books that I'm planning to buy through the end of the year. And then I have 5 collections of comics that I'm planning to buy through early next year. For the books, I'm going to get, in September, I'm going to get City on Fire by Don Winslow. And that comes out September 21st. Then something I was very excited about, John le Carré, who died almost a year ago, he has a new book coming out called Silverview, and that's coming out October 12th. I was not aware of that. So when I found that out, I got very excited. Very, very excited. I love his stuff. I was sad when he died. So to find out that there's one more coming out, a final book, was pretty exciting stuff. Also on October 12th, Codex Seraphinianus, the 40th anniversary of the book by Luigi Serafini. That's going to be expensive, and I don't know if I'm going to get the special edition or the regular one. And there's a few $100 difference there, but I don't know. I have the first edition from 1981, and I also have one that was from 2013, which I've talked about on this channel before. But 40th anniversary, why not? Finally, in December 7th, Seahawk by Ted Bell. All right, comics. Destroy All Monsters, which is part of the Reckless series by Ed Brubauer. Or Brubaker. Brew something. That comes out October 19th. Department of Truth Volume 2, which I'm loving Department of Truth. There's only been one so far, but that comes out in November. Strange Adventures, which I believe is already available, at least in some capacity, in Europe, comes out in the United States to completion in December. Something is Killing the Children, Volume 4, comes out in January. And then Undiscovered Country, Volume 3 comes out in January on the same day. That's all I'm planning on buying for the next, 7 months. All right. Now, the book that I finished recently, I was very excited about. A year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I bought the comics of this, and it's DC Comics Black Label. And I love what DC Comics Black Label is doing. But this is the collection of the entire run. There's 12 comics in it, and they're thicker comics. It's by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who also plays trumpet for the Army Band, and Riccardo Federici. It's called The Last God. This was amazing. Now, the art, and I'm going to open this up and show you some of the art, and it's thick. The art is amazing in it. The writing is great. It's fantasy. I don't know what high fantasy is versus regular fantasy, but it's fantasy. It's graphic novel. It's definitely for adults. It's for mature audiences, and it's well done. And this is book 1. I don't know what the rest of them are going to be. What's also cool about this book, there's just so much cool stuff about this. Let's just open to a random page. I'm going to look for something that has a little bit of magic in it. All right, here we go. Look at the way they do the art in this book. That stands out so much. The different colors for the different kind of magic. I mean, there's this different kind of magic here than this. Just look at Look at this. And the dialogue's great. And there's violence. There's some nudity. I won't show you the nudity, but there's some pretty extreme violence in here. This is one of the big heroes in it. So essentially what it is you have a group of people, some humans, some elves, and they go to the Black Staircase, and they are going to, there's like a creation story in here, and they're going to the Black Staircase to fight what is kind of like the devil. The devil, it's this bad god that's stuck in the void. The other gods have kind of given themselves to some of the different creations and eventually kind of burned out, but those creations have lived on. Like the elves are offspring of one of the gods that through creation had died at some point. This one god who lives in the void wants to get out. There is a group that goes 30 years ago from when this book was taking place. It's basically like looking back 30 years and then looking to the present, and two different groups going to try to change what's happening in the world. And they both have to deal with the gods. So it jumps back and forth between that. So this is the book. The cover comes off. There's a map on the inside. Yay, maps. Very cool cover here. Here's one of the heroes. He's fighting the god from the void. The cover opens up into a large map of the lands, and also one of the major. There's more here than is in this book. So there's stuff that's setting up other books, but this is Cain Anun. At the back of the book, there's some kind of gameplay explanation for different. I don't actually know. I don't know what it is. Like I don't play games, so I like nerdy stuff, but I don't do that. I don't know if it's like LARPing or if it's like a board game or what it is, what it refers to. But there's all these rules in the back, like hit power, hit, defense, spells, items that you can use to fight, the history behind those things. And they're all based in this book. If you like graphic novels and you're into fantasy, I think you would like this. If you're into graphic novels, I think you would like this. If you're into good art that's amazing, I think you would like. I mean, it's just amazing. And I knew it was gonna be amazing when I read individual copies that I got, but when it came, I just burned through it. It's not a short book. Like there are 12 issues. They're rather thick. Whatever they do in the future, I'm excited to see it. I think there's gonna be some piracy involved and ships and stuff. So, The Last God. It's DC Comics Black Label. It came out maybe a week or two ago. I love it. Philip Kennedy Johnson's pretty responsive on Twitter. So as I've said things that I've liked about the book, he's been responsive, and maybe it's going to be a trumpet player, and trumpet players are pretty cool. That's the first time I've ever talked about a graphic novel. I think it was great. Check it out. I'm still reading about sharks, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to read The Dry next, which is from an Australian author. Thank you to Paige, Mel, and Crystal, who are 3 Australians that I asked about what Australian author I should read. They said Jane Harper. So that's who I'm reading next. So we'll see what I do next, but that's after I read Close to Shore. Thanks for joining me. Check out this graphic novel. I'm going to see a whole lot of changes behind me. My coworker did get me a book called Finest Hours, which is about a Coast Guard rescue from the 50s or 60s, the Pendleton rescue. My wife and I went to the set of the movie, and we watched them film an important part of the movie. It was a Disney movie called The Finest Hours. And this is the book that the movie was based off of, which is a rescue that I was aware of beforehand. So I'm excited to see that. That'll be very cool to actually read that. And thank you to my buddy Kevin for getting me that. And that's it. Thanks for joining me.